everybody, and welcome to Whimsically Wicked, a reading duet. My name is Haley, and I'm the whimsical half.
And my name is Darian, I'm the wicked half.
We are going to be talking about the book that has taken the world by storms for like a year, fucking
Forever.
9
honestly.
years. When was Manacled written?
I don't even know, to be honest.
Manacled.
It's got to be at least 5 or 6 years old. It's pre-2020, I want to say.
Oh, for sure it would have been. Between April 2018 and August 2019. That is what Google AI is saying, so take that with a grain of salt.
Yeah, because that thing lies.
It's so bad.
It is the worst AI I've ever seen.
But the topic of this conversation is going to be Alchemised by Senlinyu.
Yes.
Ugh, we've been waiting for this for so long.
Yeah. And it was one of those ones where, like, it took me longer than Haley to read this one, because, like, one, I was busy, and two, I just didn't want it to end.
I know.
Like, I didn't want it to end. I also knew it was going to hurt, because obviously I've read Manacled. But I also just didn't want it to end. Like, 1,000 pages wasn't enough.
It wasn't. And coming from a place where I was so thankful that she decided to make this one book, because authors in this day and age have a habit of creating too many books.
Jennifer L. Armentrout.
Fourth Wing.
Trilogies.
Keep them as
duology. Single
Yeah.
books that tell your entire story are okay.
Yeah. I want to leave a book wanting more.
Yeah.
Don't give me too much.
Yeah, I don't want to be tired.
I want to yearn.
I want to think about it after and imagine what comes next on my own.
Yeah. And boy, did we.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
So, Alchemized by Senlinyu, for those of you who don't know, was originally a Harry Potter fanfiction, and let's just do quick right off the bat. We hate J.K. Rowling.
Zero support.
Yes. If we had it our way, she would earn $0 more for the rest of our lives.
Yep.
Her life, whatever.
No more money.
We don't like her, and we'll get into a little bit of the politics of this whole fanfiction controversy, but what we want to talk about is Alchemized and Senlinyu and them getting their flowers.
Yes, and the such earned, at the end of the day, payday for this, because she wrote something phenomenal that arguably millions of people read, and now she's finally getting what she deserves for it.
So excited for her. Senlinyu's pronouns, we checked she, they.
Yes.
So we're going to use those
interchangeably. We're probably going to switch around. You know who we're talking about. It's a one author show today.
Yeah. So how we're going to structure this episode, we're going to do some spoiler-free sections where we just talk about the book, what it's about, what we thought about it, our ratings, without anything that we would consider to be spoilers. And then we're going to go into our spoiler review, and then we're going to talk a little bit about the controversy around the politics of fanfiction becoming published work, what credit looks like, people's feelings and opinions on J.K. Rowling, and her work being put into fanfictions and then published, and how that's really creating a lot of nuance in this conversation. So we're going to get towards that in the end. We'll put all of the sections in our descriptions and things so that you can check them out as you prefer.
Yes, and I will say, for the record, we have also read, or in some cases attempted to read, Rose in Chains and The Irresistible Urge to Fall in Love with Your Enemy.
Yeah, I would say that between the two of us, we're well educated on the fan fiction. Daria is well read in fan fiction. I have read fan fiction. I haven't not, but I'm less knowledgeable about that subject. But
I read it. I write it.
We've gotten our PhDs on TikTok doom scrolling, echo chambers, and text message conversations. So those are our credentials.
Yeah, and even part of this I have a degree in. We're going to get there later. Haley doesn't know about that. I had a thought while she was gone picking something up. So we'll loop back to that, though, at the end when we talk about fan fiction and what is and isn't an original idea.
Yeah. I think the first question that is blowing up on the internet, do you need to read Manacled before Alchemized?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. the same story in a lot of ways.
Yes.
Manacled was set in the Harry Potter world. Obviously, that has been completely taken out.
I would dare someone to have the audacity to stand in front of me and be like, yeah, I could tell this was a Harry Potter fan fiction.
If you didn't know because you're on the internet, you wouldn't know.
No, there's no way you would know.
I wish we could do some sort of study where we recommend it to someone who has no idea. I almost wish I didn't tell my boyfriend where it was from.
And made him read it?
And made him read it and ask if he's able to, like, determine where it actually originated from. I am willing to bet it's no.
That was a whole podcast series we ended up scrapping because it was really fucking painful to do, where I would give Haley a published book based on a fan fiction, and she had to try to guess which fandom it was from. And I will fully acknowledge there are a large swath of books that have been published that were fanfics first that should not have been published.
Literally. And this is one of the ones that should have been published.
And this is one of the ones that should, like, this would have, I wish we could have done that with this.
I know.
It would have been so much more fun than what we did do, which didn't even make it to the end of the episode. I think we gave up.
Literally. But yeah, you don't need to read Manacled.
No.
And even Manacled is a story that stood on its own in a lot of ways.
Yeah. You didn't even need their backstories from where they were at, like, what is this, 5-10 years later? Like, you didn't need that in Manacled to understand what was happening, and you 1000% don't need it for Alchemised.
Right. Like, the thing that she stood on with the fan fiction is largely the world building and the attachment that the readers had to those characters. Those are the two things that I think is what Manacled stood on in terms of taking from the source material. The story itself, even the characterization of these characters, were so far detached, and you are reading a lot of the same story. The plot points, the structure is very similar. Mm-hmm. What is new is character names, obviously.
Yep. New magic system. Really cool magic system. We'll get into that later.
And the new world and the new, like, just general setting is new.
Yeah. And I think, and we'll talk about this more when we get into the spoilers section for both Manacled and Alchemized, is the things that mattered the most shifted just a little bit.
Yeah.
In a way that I thought was really important.
Agreed.
Because also, in addition to being a Harry Potter fanfiction, it's also a little bit of Handmaid's Tale fanfiction.
Yes.
And that, I would argue, is completely gone from the published version.
Yeah.
Instead, you have eugenics, which is not copyrighted in any way, shape, or form.
Imagine that being copied.
And it's a thing people actually do on a regular basis in the real world. So, like, I think she took out the piece of that made it Handmaid's Tale. That's gone, in my opinion. That's erased. There's a nod to it with, like, the red.
Definitely a nod to it, which I actually really respect. And I think that there's a lot of opinions. There's going to be a lot of opinions on this, and I am coming from a perspective where I know that I don't have all of the perspectives on this, but the nod to where it came from and what inspired this book, and even Senlinyu has posted on their Instagram about all of the books that created Alchemized, and just putting a nod and respect to the things that came forward and inspired, because what we know is that nothing in this day and age is original. No. Senlinyu's work and story, the actual story, very original. The magic system is not necessarily original, with their own spin on it, for sure.
Yeah.
Their own rules and all of those things, but the magic system exists already.
Yes, she's borrowed from tabletop RPG known magic systems that exist kind of ubiquitously as, like, one of those, like, pop it down, you pick your character, you build them, you use one of these magic systems. Exactly. She does her own thing with it. It's really cool. I really enjoyed it as a magic system, but, like, it's also not copyrighted in any way, shape, or form.
Nope. So, okay, spoiler free, we're going to talk a little bit about our ratings, what we thought of the book. We're going to break it up into a couple different just sections of what a story brings. We're going to give our ratings, general overview that doesn't go too much into spoilers. I guess first, let's just talk about what it's about, in a way.
Yes.
Alchemized is a dark political war story. fantasy book. And note how I don't say that this is an enemies to lovers romance. I'm seeing that all over the internet right now. What are y'all talking about?
If you watched Haley's book unhauling video and you saw her talk about Priory of the Orange Tree, you go in the comment section and I'm in there being like, what the fuck are you talking about?
I thought this Priory of the Orange Tree has been marketed as this romance fantasy in my algorithm where people are like, oh, I love the romance. And then Daria comes in my comments when I did my book unhaul and is like, that is not a romance.
No, it's a political high fantasy which has romance in it,
Right.
which romance is a part of the human experience for like 98% of people.
Yes.
I acknowledge the fact that some people aromantic, that's totally fine. But when you're marketing and writing a story for the average person, which is the 98%, there's gonna be romance in it. You can't live life and not have it brush by you.
Yeah, but the romance genre is different than that. When you're telling a story, you're generally going to have some sort of romance plot in it, no matter what you do. Now, the romance genre is like that being the main plot point, that they
like,
are getting together and
your story is their story.
Yeah. And I really hate this idea that we have to go on the internet and generalize what a story is just for whether it's for the clout, the likes, the views, the like you're looking for a romance enemies to lovers, this is for you. If you pick up this book expecting an enemies to lovers similar to something like Quicksilver, you are going to be sorely mistaken and you're also going to be traumatized
and disappointed, but namely traumatized.
And that makes me mad in a lot of ways because to put this down into a romance pisses me off so much because it's not about the romance.
No, like the romance is there. It's a vehicle for
and it is a main,
some of the plot.
Yeah, it is like it is kind of a main plot point, but not in the way that you are going to come out of this book feeling good and happy and the love story worked out. That is not the feeling.
That's not what this book is
that you're
for.
going to get coming out of it, and I really hate the idea that it's being marketed. So let's just start there.
Not a romance.
Not a romance.
It has romance in it.
Yeah.
But not a romance.
Yeah. And trying to get this politics right, please help me out if I mess anything up. But there is a country that they are living in called, oh no.
Palladia?
Palladia.
Something.
Yeah. And Palladia is under war right now.
Yeah.
And you have kind of multiple sides, I want to say. You have the guild, who are the industrialists. They hold the power in terms of capitalism, right? Industrialization. They're building the trains, the roads, all of those things.
Raw materials. Mm-hmm. And they also seem to have a very ingrained traditionalist view on the world.
Yeah, like women are bred to marry and to gain like
political clout. You marry them off so you intertwine your family with another family, and then you can use their resources. They can use yours, whatever.
And the head of those guilds have some sort of type of metallurgy. Thank you. There's my speaking impediment. I have a podcast.
Yep.
And they are able to resonate with some type of metal. So you have iron, you have steel, and so on, and you're able to resonate with it because the magic system in this book is called resonance. So they have that type of power. You also have the Institute that the Holdfast family has founded. And they are the epitome for people who show resonance to go and learn about magic and to study science associated with the magic and become, hold developments for it.
Yeah.
Part of the issue, though, is some of this magic is really frowned upon.
Yes.
Specifically, vivimancy. And animancy as well.
Yes.
But animancy is very rare, so we don't see it very often. Vivimancy is very complex magic because it also drains you in a way. Vivimancy allows you to promote life and
Yeah, it's an
healing.
exchange. Like you trade part of your vitality, you can grow back that person's arm.
Right. So healers have that, and that one is kind of frowned upon.
Yeah, they don't like that.
Yeah.
I think it's also really important to note the institute and the like political structure around the institute, because like whoever's in charge of the institute is in charge of their society, and it's a theocracy. So it's based on the idea that their leader is also their religious head.
Yeah. And
which is important.
Their god is Soul, and the Holdfasts have this, they were destined to be the descendant of Soul, and they have fire, pyromancy.
Yep.
They are able to manipulate fire.
And they can transmute gold.
Yes. So they are the top of this society, and they run the society. The opposers are necromancers, and the head of this necromancer basically wants to achieve immortality. And the way that they fight are by, maybe that's all we should say in terms of the political structure, because we're kind of getting into spoilers in that regard.
Yeah, we'll leave it there. You got necromancers versus not necromancers, basically.
Yeah. So quick little political structure, and where we start in this story is a woman named Helena, and this war is over. And the necromancers have won.
Mm-hmm.
Helena was part of the Holdfast Institute, where she was a vivimancer, and she was kind of oppressed. Not even kind of. She was very oppressed in that regard, but she was able to find a place for her to study her science and become a healer and do all of these wonderful things for that side of the war. And that's kind of what we know about the situation so far.
She was also really frowned upon for being a foreigner.
Yes, because she is from a country called Etruss. She's a person of color. She is a foreigner coming in. She has this weird magic that people really tend to frown upon. And she was given a place in the world at the Institute. And her best friend had died. And that was Luke Holdfast was the son who was supposed to be destined to win the war. And so she's captured, and manacles are put on her to oppress her magic. Mm-hmm. And she has full memory loss of everything from the war. She can't remember anything. She only remembers her being in the hospital and being in the trenches of trying to save people and how bad the war was, but she doesn't remember anything beyond that.
There's no details for like 19 months, give or take?
Yeah, 18 or 19, something like that. And so she is sent to the High Reeve, who is the most brutal and high-ranking officer general of the necromancer side, to try and retrieve these memories. And so she's sent to that house, and she's imprisoned in the house to try and gain back her memories in case the necromancer missed anything that, you know, she's trying to hide in her memories. And that's where we're at right now.
I think there's also just a piece in there too of like they've won the war, but like there's kind of that morbid curiosity of like, why did you hide 19 months? Like what warranted that? Like they don't need the information, they just really want it.
That's what it seems like, right? But you can also, like, I remember feeling at the very beginning, no matter what, even when I read Manacled originally, I remember feeling at the very beginning, there's a reason that they're desperate for these memories. Yeah. There's that feeling of, like, yes, you're kind of acting as if you don't need them, but, like, what's under there? Yeah, it's like there's something we're missing.
You don't know, so you need to know, and you have the power to find out, so why don't you?
Yes. Yeah, and I feel like, too, what she does a good job of exploring right at the beginning is this idea that the war's not, like, the war is over. You don't declare this war anymore, but there is a cost to war and the rebuilding of a society after and what that looks like. And this side of the necromancers are really dead set on finding every single person who stood with the Holdfasts and just annihilating that piece. So maybe they're thinking that they can find, you know, any last living members of what they called the Holdfast Empire is the Eternal Flame. And so they're looking for any last members of the Eternal Flame. And that's what this book is about.
Yeah.
Notice how I didn't talk about romance.
No. because, again, that was the least important part of the plot.
I'm salty. Okay, so general ratings. We're going to go through a couple of different sections of the book. So firstly, out of 5, what did you rate the relationships and the characters?
I would give this a 5, personally. I think every character who has a name, and you're going to hear me talk about names a lot in another episode of the podcast shortly, had a really important role to play. I understood their motives. I had, like, their personalities. They were full people, in my opinion.
I also gave it a 5. I felt like I was rereading Manacled for the first time, and I actually told you about this at the beginning. I feel like this baby is kind of relationships and characters, but like this is where I struggled with it the most. The first, I want to say at least 200 pages, maybe even a little bit more than that. I had a really hard time letting go of Manacled, and I wished more than anything that I hadn't read Manacled because of that. I was really struggling to try and like, okay, who is what character? Who carries over, and why can't I let go of the changes that the characters have made? Page 300, that was over. I was fully in. It stands on its own so much. I actually think the characters got better.
Yes.
Agreed. The exploration, specifically with Helena, but I think all of the characters had a really good baseline with this, is just the intersectionality and the complex pieces of experiences with oppression and the oppressive, and all of that was so good and so rightfully,
like, it made you mad. It was supposed to make you mad. Like, you're not supposed to feel...
This isn't a feel-good story.
Yeah, like, you're not even going to feel sympathetic with the good guys, because at the end of the day, they're also not the good guys.
Right.
Like, one, good people don't win wars.
Yep.
2, no matter what side of the war you're on, the other side is the bad guy. And it's going to be for a reason. It might not be a reason you agree with, but the people who are on the other side agree with why they're bad.
Yeah.
And, like, when you look at this one from Helena's point of view, like, yes, the other side is bad, but she can empathize with them because they share magic that's bad.
Yeah.
Bad, quotes. But, like, these other people are her friends, but they also will never fully accept her for who she is because she has that magic and because she's from somewhere else.
Literally. So her journey and the just characterization that you explore with her, I experience so much frustration with Helena because I see so much perspective of like, why are you letting people treat you this way? Why are you, right? But then you have to really take that step back and be like, you can't blame her for the experience and like the thing that she had, because it is so complex. They gave her a place to go and study her magic, and she felt like home, and she has friends there who actually do care about her, but care about her in so many wrong and oppressive ways, and that is complex. That is not simple. It was
so cool to read it and like have the perspective of her being like, you're my friend, you understand a quarter of this problem that I've just presented to you, and the rest of it she's like, it's not even worth explaining because there's no way to make them understand. And part of that is having this be a theocracy.
Yes. Because
you throw religion into the mix, and that makes your morals and your stances on things just so much higher stakes because your immortal soul is at stake.
Yes.
And that makes people so much worse.
Yes. The fear-mongering of religion is really explored in this one, about like what you're willing to give up and what you're not willing to give up.
Stand by that.
Yeah.
It was really cool. I loved that piece of it. Like just sitting there and thinking about it and creating allegories to the real world with it.
Helena was such a good character. Kane Farron also, I think, was an excellent character in a lot of ways. Kane, what we can talk about with Kane Farron is a very cold and calculated bad guy who
has one little bright light.
Yeah.
And that's all that, like, he is a bad person.
Yes.
And that, he knows he's a bad person. She knows he's a bad person. You know he's a bad person.
Right. And that's where you really get, because Helena is so good and so interesting at the beginning, and Cain is also very interesting, but you hate Cain Farron.
Yes.
And you're supposed to.
You should. Yeah.
It's so good. I can't even talk about more than that without giving away spoilers.
Yeah. But just know that this isn't a book that's going to make you feel good at the end.
Yeah. We can't really talk about much of the characters because at the beginning of this book, there aren't many.
No, that's true.
Yeah, you kind of get a couple characters from Helena's past that you only get brief conversations about that provide you with just questions going into the story. And you get the doctor, Dr. Stroud, who is the one who is manacling her up. But then, like, Shizio comes in, and Shizio, you don't really know, like, Shizio doesn't know who she is from the Eternal Flame, and he kind of barely recognizes her. And so, from a spoiler-free section, we can't talk about the characters, but the characters explore the underground of the war and the political story and what people are willing to do to win, and what people hide from each other because of that.
Yeah.
And because of a theocracy. So that's I also give it a 5 out of 5. I think it was excellent. Yeah. The other thing that I just want to talk about in like relation to Manacled, and how these characters stand on their own, even though I knew that they originated from Draco and Hermione, like, way back in the day, I still kind of stand on the fact that they didn't really originate from Draco and Hermione.
No.
And I think, you know what I mean?
I was thinking, I had a massage appointment before this, so I literally just had, like, an hour, just my own thoughts to occupy me. And I think one of the things that I thought about it a lot was Draco and Hermione, you learn about them until they're 17, 18.
Right.
And then you jump forward and you put them through a whole bunch of trauma and a whole bunch of shit, an entire war, and then 5 years. I'm going to say 5. I don't remember what the actual timeline is for years on this, but I'll say 5 years. I am irrecognizable to the person I was 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Like, my personality has changed. Like, like, a lot of stuff has changed. And that was 30 to 35 or 25. And I haven't gone through shit.
Literally.
I went through COVID. That's about it.
Giving in Manacled, these characters didn't exist as the way that they did in the books.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what fan fiction is, but like when you pull 10 years of a completely different ending to a war and story and you bring out characters on the other end of that, they're going to be completely irrecognizable characters. And to add to the fact that Draco and Hermione were both characters in Harry Potter that didn't really get in-depth character development. Like,
no.
We didn't even know Hermione's parents' names.
No, we didn't.
We didn't know anything about Hermione outside of the fact that she was a nerd and that she was like, her character growth was from her being an incessant know-it-all to just a smart girl who will potentially have a future as who knows what.
Yeah.
She was the best friend of the main character. That's what she was. And Draco was like the son of a high-ranking general in a war.
Who, like, more so in the books and the movies, kind of got dragged into it.
Yeah.
Unwillingly.
Yeah, and, like, had a terrible upbringing and was a result of that. So both of these characters just had a lot of room for people to do self-inserts of themselves in fanfiction. And because Manacled was set in a different time period, way into the future, where these characters went through completely different things,
they're not the same.
They're not the same. So I just wanted
That's like saying you're the same person you were at 15 to what you were at 35.
Yeah.
That is just not the case.
Right.
And I really fucking hope it's not.
Yeah. Okay, atmosphere and setting.
Oh my god. Such a slut for necromancers and dead things. And I was getting my nails done for the first 100 pages of this book.
Nice.
And I did vampire queen nails, like they're sparkly red to black ombre.
Yeah.
And I was so fucking here for it for spooky month.
Yeah. The atmosphere was so on par with the writing and the world that it was
dark, it's foggy.
Yeah.
You don't get to see the sun very often. There's rotting corpses littering everywhere, but they're also like walking because there's I love it.
Yeah. And the magic system itself, we've already touched on this, it's somewhere between a soft and a hard magic system. kind of dependent on how much how much
work you're willing to do.
Yeah, or how much background you have in fantasy and tabletop RPGs in general. Because Senlinyu did a wonderful job world building. Yes. Wonderful job. I think it worked in with the story really well in the writing, but they didn't hold your hand through the magic system.
No.
They would give you kind of a small, like, this is what Vivimancy does, this is what the history is, but they wouldn't give you all of the really specific rules about what Vivimancy is. They wouldn't give you a real definition on animancy and all of those things. That is stuff that if you have played games in the past, or if you've read a lot of fantasy, you kind of have just an understanding. It's interesting to me that fantasy kind of has a barrier to entry with these kinds of things. Yes. In the way that you understand magic systems. Like, we've really legitimized magic in this realm.
And, like, you can't even see... I think you see a quarter of my fantasy collection in shot for YouTube.
Yeah.
It goes up 2 more shelves and then over 3. So I have no problem following this. I was like, okay, yeah, let's go. This is tabletop RPG, and magic. It's the basics of...
Yeah.
The style of magic system, so I had no problem. But
and I read a lot of fantasy. That's my main genre. But I also play Dungeons and Dragons. So I have a very solid understanding of like rules and limitations of specific magic. And like different characters being able to use different types of magic in a world where you can have like literally all magic systems and all types of races and all of those things. So like we have a pretty general understanding. So when we read this, we don't have to like stop and say, okay, what's animancy? What does that mean? What does this look like?
And then I think it is one of the valid criticisms for this, if you aren't someone who's done a lot of fantasy reading or played a lot of tabletop RPGs, you can Google all of this, and there are beautiful guides to, like, if you were someone who wants to, like, dive into what all of this magic is and how it works and how it interplays, like, that all exists as, like, a companion guide you can find on the internet.
Yeah, like, a lot of the world building was actually baked into the story and the plot. So like you would learn about how necromancy works as, you know, one of the characters does necromancy.
Yeah.
Some of it was written in, like the history and all of those things, but a lot of it was like, oh, this is how I do necromancy. This is how it works. Yeah. And then you kind of have about as much understanding as the character does with it. So I've seen a lot of criticism on like, oh, I don't really understand like how this magic system works and stuff. And you're not really supposed to, I think, in a lot of ways.
It's also like, it's not the important part either.
Exactly.
The magic is standing in place of what would be in the real world: race, religion, gender, oppression, sexual orientation.
Yeah.
Like it's not
discrimination.
It's the piece they're using to discriminate with.
Yeah.
And also like it's kind of their weapon system, but it's not like this is a book where we're diving into the magic system as like a core plot point. It's being used to facilitate the rest of it.
Yeah. And I gave the atmosphere and setting 4.5 out of 5 stars. I am a slut for a hard magic system. It was like, it could have been a little bit harder for me, but I don't think it needed to be, because I think it could have potentially taken away from the actual aspects of the book that mattered. To Daria's point, the full-fledged hard magic system didn't matter. It was a tool for them to use as the things that she just said.
Yeah.
So, okay. Development and plot.
Okay, this is where I sit more at a 4. Okay. One of the things I had a hard time, I don't know if it's characterization, I feel like it falls more into plot, it was why she was so invested in this war between these people when it's not where she's from.
Yeah.
I think that was my hardest part with connecting with this book, was I just was like, it would be like me going to another country, going to university there, and then hanging out while they murdered each other for decades. And I was like emotionally invested, but I had the option to leave.
Yeah.
And I'm from somewhere else. I think that was the part where I was like, I understand they're your friends.
Yes.
And like I can see like that's why you stayed, but I was like, I needed a little bit more to get me there.
The rebuttal for me in that is I gave it a 4.5, so I'm about the same as you in terms of development and plot. The rebuttal I think comes from the characterization of Helena had really, could she have gone home? Sure. But she didn't have parents for reasons we won't go into. But
Yeah.
her family was at the Institute.
Yes.
And I also think that the theocracy did such a perfect job of giving her nowhere to go.
That's true.
They have taken away a lot of her choices and freedoms. We won't go into it because this isn't spoilers, but they've taken away a lot of her choices and freedoms to be able to choose what she wants after.
Yes, this is true. Like
Yeah.
again, like it wasn't a big thing for me. I
Yeah.
think it was just I would have rather her been from that place and discriminated against in a different way
Okay.
than have her be a foreigner who came there
That's fair.
and then became stuck and really invested in the, because I think it took away from my like
Understand.
my personal believability of like I would have dipped the fuck out.
Daria would have dipped out too, and that's the funny part of it. Like Daria is the best at being like cut off. Bye.
Yeah, I do it to people, I do it to situations, I do it at work. I actually respected for it at work. No.
And I saw a lot more of myself in Helena, who I'm like, I'm bad at that.
Yeah, I would have been
I'm
like
better at it than I was when I was when I was 22 or whatever, but I'm still not good at that. So I'm a people pleaser.
I'm not. I don't care.
Yeah, no, Daria doesn't have that problem. Yeah.
But that's a personal thing for me. I think most people would actually empathize with her a lot better than I do.
Yeah. The general development of the complex world, I think, is where I really could have seen this being a duology. Because when it comes to the development of the plot, and like actually this might really relate to like the thing that you struggled with just in a slightly different way, is I think that could have been set up more if you broke it up into two, let's say 600 pages books, right? Extend it by 200 or 300 pages and have just 100 pages diving in a little bit more to the backstory of the politics and what the guild is and what the institute looks like and why Helena can't leave and all of those things. So maybe that's where I wanted more.
Yeah.
And I could have used more.
And I think another piece in here where I got kind of thrown out of all of it, this one's also kind of dumb for me, but this is a city-state.
Yeah.
And this is a weird fight to have, like, because they're doing like it's not like we're a country. At least it might be a country. I don't know if that was ever actually established, if it was like if they had like
I think
country
city,
but like this story takes place exclusively in a city, and all of their war is city warfare. So it's like you're taking back parts of it, like the ports, the docks, like all of this other ports and docks are different. It's fine. You can Google it. But like you were taking over portions of a city, and I was like, this is weird.
It is weird. I'm sorry. I'm trying to like.
And that part bothered me too.
Yeah.
I didn't like that. I would have rathered it be like a full
city of Palladia.
Yeah, like I think it made more sense. Or like, because like, okay, here's the thing. It's either Vatican City or it's Rome.
Right.
You know? Like it's like the Institute's Vatican City, the city is Rome.
Yes.
And they're just fighting in there, which I thought was kind of weird.
I agree with you. I think the villain in this story wasn't as strong as I think it kind of needed to be, because the whole reason the war started was like kind of like just two evils. Like it was that weird. But I found Moreau, who is the main villain of like the one who wants to gain immortality and things like that, wasn't necessarily like a big enough
piece of the plot. And also like the motivations were kind of weird to me. Yeah. She did do a really good job at circling it back at the end and how she wraps it all up. So it gets there. It gets there, and the payoff works, and the payoff is worth it to how it all ties together, because it like that's so good. Don't like. Yeah, no, it made sense. It was. I was like,
It was during that it was hard. Because I
Yeah.
was like, what's this deal with Moreau? He just like wants to live forever, and so he's like just started a whole war on a city. Like there's got to be more there, and then there just like wasn't for 900 pages, and then the payoff was excellent. So like it's hard to
It's if you're not someone who's going to enjoy reading 1,000 pages to
Yeah.
get to the point where it all clicks together and makes sense, this might not be for you.
Yeah,
And that's totally fine.
Yeah.
I love watching things where I get gaslit all the way to the end and then
Yeah.
it all just like ties together and then I can go through and watch it again and see all those pieces come together and make sense.
yes.
Which I think added to my enjoyment of this one because in Manacled, obviously, you didn't get that till the end.
Yeah.
But now I get to read it, and I'm like, oh, I know where that's going.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
know where that ties, and it's so much. I like puzzles a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. So good. Anyways, okay, style and structure.
I really liked it. I like the parts. I don't know if those count as spoilers, but like the structure of the story is told in different timelines, I guess.
3 parts, different timelines where you get to start the story with a lot of assumptions and a lot of things that are unknown.
Yeah, like you will not understand what's happening for the first 35% of this book, and
Well,
that is intentional.
Yeah, well, remember, Helena has her memories gone. She doesn't have her memories. And so we go through the first third of this book without Helena's memories and just like the post-war and what happens. And so then you have to like really just like hate everything and
Yeah, take it in.
try to have a lot of questions and all of those things. And then the last 2 parts are your answers. And I think that structure is impeccable. I remember reading, this is again, I wish I hadn't read Manacled because I feel like I would have had the same experience. But I just remember when the original fan fiction was recommended to me, I was reading it. I'm just going to say it would be the same for this book. I was like, how does this have any sort of ending that is good? I kind of know.
Yeah, like why do millions of people love this?
Right, like I know that there's kind of a romance subplot that makes no sense. How do they do? And then I remember like going through it, and I was so intrigued just by like, how do you finish this?
Yeah, where do you go?
Awful. You can't come back from this. Maybe this individual actually isn't the like
The end game.
And
maybe it's Throne of Glass.
I was like, there's literally no way. There's no way. And then I just remember finishing being like, oh my God, how the fuck did they do that?
Like, how did we get here?
Right? And I was explaining to Jake, this is the best way that I can describe this. I was explaining to Jake, like, what the book was about. And I was like, and I'm pretty sure everything, like, I met him after I read the book. So I was like, this is how it starts. And he goes, what? And then I was like, and this is how it ends. And I kind of forgot to fill him in on the middle. And he was like, what the fuck? And like, this is like 3 months into us dating. I was like, oh no. And I can't explain it any other way than I was floored. And I was just like, oh my God, they did it. Somehow they did it. And
Yeah.
it is so impressive to me. I can't give it anything under than a 5 out of 5 for setting and structure.
Yeah, I love it. And like, again, this is one where you really, things are going to happen in that first third that are, 1, super triggering, 2, really make you lose faith in all of humanity and everything. And then you get into that second part and it starts to all weave together.
Yeah.
And then it hurts a
And
lot.
it doesn't stop hurting.
And it doesn't stop hurting. I read Manacled in 24 hours straight.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I didn't sleep.
Shit, that's so scary.
I was laying in bed at 6:30 in the morning, sobbing, just sobbing. I had to go to work the next day, and I was texting Haley, who was already up because she is awake at the time. And I was like, I just finished it. And he was like, did you sleep? And I was like, no, I didn't sleep. I'm sobbing. I needed tissue. And the same thing happened with Alchemised for the last 2 hours of me reading that. I was on my couch. There's still a tissue box on my couch with just a mountain of used tissue surrounding me.
It's a mess. One thing I just want to talk about with the style of the writing, I think this is one of my favorite styles of writing.
Oh, yeah.
And this book just hits so hard, so real, especially in this day and age, around how war and power works. So this is just my spoiler-free one. I have a few more for like the spoiler side of things. But this was one of my favorite paragraphs. I shouldn't say favorite, just like one of the hard-hitting, gut-wrenching paragraphs. Prison uprisings are a dangerous thing. There are prisons the size of towns. To keep order, it is important that the guards are not the enemy. Instead, you make the prisoners think their trouble is other prisoners, a different unit or sector. Those prisoners are the reason that this prisoner has less. The rules they hate are the other prisoner's fault. By making privilege always at the expense of others, the prisoners forget who has made these rules. Moreau liked this idea. To take the souls, he must make the prisoners blame someone else. Even after the energy was taken, the blame must continue to be misdirected.
And I challenge you to take a moment and just think about what you read in the news every day right now. And understand that this is not a fantasy concept. It's not a novel concept.
It's a power concept.
It's a fundamental piece of society. And people use this every single day. And you feel it every single day. I feel it at work all the time.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, oh, I don't have that because someone else got it. And I'm like, that's not the case.
That's not the...
There's someone 7 rungs above me that's the problem here.
That is by design for you to be upset about the other people who are in the same situation as you.
Yeah.
And it just, like, what a gut-wrenching paragraph that is going to stick with me for the rest of my life.
Yeah. And it's such a good reminder just to think, like, your immediate gut reaction is blame where you can see it going, but maybe blame where it came from.
Yeah. Yeah. Misdirection is by...
Core.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is how people stay in power. And it just, oh my gosh. And the exploration to, like, do it in a fantasy novel where it's like there's parallels to it and you see it happening and you have the perspective to be so angry about it happening and to see it working by design is, like, such an incredible perspective. This is an important book.
Yeah. No, especially, and we talked about this last night, where, like, fantasy books and all of that dystopian pieces are getting harder and harder to read for me because I read for escapism. I don't read anymore to learn things. I read mostly now to just not exist.
Yeah.
And it sucks because some of my favorite books just remind me of reality right now, and I don't like that.
Yeah. Well, actually, I forgot to do one of them, but this is actually a perfect segue. The section of that we're going to rate here is the engagement and enjoyment, and I rate that a 5 out of 5.
Oh,
with
6.
The underlying aspect of enjoyment does not mean I was laughing and enjoying it and feeling giddy the whole time. I was engaged start to finish. I read 700 pages of this in 2 days, and I had the exact same situation where I, like, kept getting up every 5 or 6 pages towards the end because I didn't want it to end.
Yeah, like, I kept pausing.
Engaged. Had to keep pausing, but fully engaged, couldn't put it down. And once again, it's not a feel-good book in terms of enjoyment, but I got so much out of it in terms of perspective and understanding, and it just punched me in the face, and I loved it.
Yeah, like, don't get me wrong, the 2 hour, it was more than 2 hours, it was several hours of crying was really nice. I enjoyed that experience. It was cathartic. It was great. I knew it was happening. I've read Manacled. There's not a lot of divergence here, and I still fucking sobbing.
I know.
like whimpering, crying.
Overall rating?
5.
5 star.
5 star.
5 star.
I would not recommend this to everyone I know that reads.
No.
But if you are so inclined and it's someone, like, I would read it. If you're on the fence about reading it, I would read it.
And the reason I would not recommend it is more about trigger warnings. Like, if you have, like, severe triggers that you can't read, there's a lot of them in here.
Yes.
But even if you are, like, not the type of person to pick up something political, or you have, like, questionable worldviews or whatever, I still think that this is the reason that you need to get out of your comfort zone. This book is the reason you need to get out of your comfort zone and read something that doesn't...
Yeah. And one of the things, and, like, maybe I'm just a bad person, that's totally fine, but one of the things I really appreciated about this was the ability to look at the bad guys in this one, like the necromancers, and still kind of understand to a degree why the average person on that side was there.
Yeah.
Like,
You're forced to to have nuance. You're forced to believe that multiple things can be true at once.
Like they had a reason to fight. It was a reason that was not invalid. Like people were oppressing them. People were sterilizing them.
Yeah.
So that they couldn't have, like, that made sense.
Literally.
If someone came for me and told me that was because of like my skin color, my dyslexia, whatever, I would be upset and I would fight against them, regardless if I agreed with some of the other stuff they did, because at the end of the day, I don't want that.
People are self-interested, and people
I say that I despise children
and all of those things, and people don't have all of the information a lot of the times about what's going on. Anyways, let's go into spoilers.
Yes.
Okay, this is your warning spoilers. If you haven't read the book and you want to, please go back and read it and come back afterwards. Everything from now on is spoilers.
Yes, I think even the fan fiction breakdown part.
I don't want to have to think about it.
Yeah, there might be spoilers in there too. They'll probably be less egregious, but we're gonna cover some stuff.
I'm not thinking about it. I'm not worrying about what
it's really hard not to do spoilers.
Okay.
Are we reading the last line?
We need to talk about the last line in this book.
Oh my god. I would have it tattooed. I should get it tattooed on my body.
I walked into the kitchen bawling my eyes out.
The cry. And I was texting my friend who also just finished reading this, and I was like, I can't.
And it's not even the first time we've read this line, because this exists in Manacled too.
Every time it comes up on TikTok, I cry.
Yeah, I walked into the kitchen, and Jake finds it funny that I cry in books, and that I actively look out to cry in books, because it's such a cathartic experience for me, and I love just reading about a human experience that is so raw and real. And so he always makes fun of me for it. And so whenever I come into the kitchen crying after a book, which is more often than I care to believe, he looks at me, he's like, good cry, bad cry. Good, what are we, is this good? Are you enjoying this? Or do you actually need help right now? And I'm just sobbing, and I'm like, it's not that simple. Don't do this to me. It's not good. It's not bad. It's just everything. Anyways. Okay. So just for context, it's obviously a picture of Helena and Soren and Luke during the war, and it's the only piece of documentation
that she existed.
Helena gets in terms of the war, and we just read 1,000 pages of her being in the war and making
instrumental. The whole reason they win.
So in the history books, Principate Lucian Holdfast with Paladin Soren Bayard. C. Bayard Soren, Chapter 12, gets his own section. And foreign-born alchemist Helena Marino. Marino left the city at the start of the Palladian Civil War to study healing. She survived the war, but died during imprisonment prior to liberation. She was a non-active member of the Order of the Eternal Flame and did not fight.
Oh! It's worse. I had so much anger and visceral in the picture. Oh, I'm so happy I didn't see the picture. You didn't see the picture? No, I didn't look. I knew it was there. Oh man, I'm gonna tear up now.
I know.
I just can't not. Oh.
I don't think you're gonna be able to see it. Oh.
You can Google it. It's fine.
Dude, that just
it hit so good after reading 1,000 pages and just being like, what do you mean?
Oh my gosh, I can't believe you're crying right now and I'm not.
I know, it just gets me so hard. It is not.
It's so real. It's so real when you look at the history not telling the story and not telling the complications and the book
nuance.
And I think where we talk about this too is in this theocracy. I think the theocracy is just such an important thing to discuss, and how religion, there are two characters, Ivy and Crawford, who basically headed the war from the Eternal Flames perspective, because the theocracy, as Luke Holdfast, and the religion that they devoted themselves to and completely followed all of the rules. They refused to use necromancy. They refused to do anything that was against this religion to win this war, and they were going to lose because of it.
Yeah, like hands down, there was no winning.
And so under everything, Crawford and Ivy created miracles. And they created miracles that were chalked up to the religion.
Yeah.
By doing things that were so devastatingly against the religion.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't.
There was no way to stick to their religion
and win the war.
So they didn't, but they told everyone they were to keep that there.
And they used somebody who was foreign, who had a magic system that nobody believed in, who knew that Helena didn't have a future outside of this. She had nowhere to go. Her parents were dead. She was sterilized. She was sterilized. She was trapped in this religion. And so they used her to go undercover and do things that were against her religion, her knowing that she was completely voiding herself of being anything. Like, she wasn't going to whatever heaven that they had. She wasn't, like, her soul was ruined because of this. And they used her to do all of that so that they could have a fighting chance. And they chalked it up to, this is soul, this is a miracle.
Yeah.
Because we are so devout and we haven't wavered.
Yeah, we've stuck. We haven't used necromancy. We haven't given up any leeway in our beliefs, and therefore we're winning because our God is telling us this is how they're showing it. Yeah. And then there's these poor people just like destroying their lives and their bodies and their minds to win them this war, doing all the nitty-gritty dirty details
and giving up their soul to do it.
Yeah. And then and then the fighters for the Eternal Flame would come back and they'd be like, look at this miracle that happened. And she's like, is he still alive?
I know.
Did he make it out of that fight?
I know.
Sobbed.
I know. That's it. Just, I can't with this book. It was so good.
And the best change she made going from Manacled to Alchemized was the theocracy.
Yes.
Hands
she
down.
Needed a magic system. She needed a political system that wasn't contingent on the Harry Potter world.
Yeah.
And it was so, because, like, let's be honest about Harry Potter. It's like, it's fine. It shaped all of our childhoods. Don't get me wrong. But, like, it's not a good political system. There's so many flaws associated with this. This one is so much more complex and incredible.
Yeah. And I think one of the reasons why Harry Potter is so easy to do this with is because it's none of that. It's a kid's book. Like, I don't give two fucks at 8 years old what your political system is. I want to see the boy with the magic do the stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
That's totally fine. But when you take the ideas that kind of like sparks as an adult when you're reading it, you're like, that seems like, why are we oppressing the werewolf? That seems odd. We shouldn't do that. Because as a kid, you're like, whatever, bad guys, werewolves, naughty. And then you build that into like an adult book, and then the theocracy replaces the prophecy, that blind faith that you have, and that thing that has no explanation for why it exists and why it's that way. Oh, so good.
So good.
And I personally, not religious. Nothing's gonna piss me off more than religion. Like, nothing's gonna get me fired up more than like blind faith.
Yeah.
I can't handle it.
Yeah.
And that was brilliant.
This book is a giant allegory, and it is incredible. It is so good. Going back to just like the style and structure, that is like textbook allegory. If you're teaching that in school, that's what that is. Yeah, it's so good. I'm gonna read a couple more excerpts because there's just some things that hurt me to just a different level. I'm not gonna this one gets like a little bit political, and I'm just gonna like say it and we can move on. But okay, so this is Kane and Helena talking. We thought at the beginning that the usual rules of war would apply. We set up field hospitals so that people wouldn't have to travel through the combat zones to reach a hospital. The massacres. She nodded. The hospital massacres had been the first major atrocity in the war. Apollo's assassination had been devastating, but the massacres were when it all became irrevocably real. The Undying followed no rules. It was not an honorable war. Moreau wanted people to be afraid or dead. The Guild Assembly defended the attacks, saying that the hospitals were run by the Eternal Flame as covers for military bases, and the surrounding countries swallowed the lie because it was easier than involving themselves in Palladia's conflict.
That one doesn't need explanation.
I'm just gonna, this is like kind of about 700 pages later and just like really tailors this one back in. Enid was reading by the time the news came that Palladia had finally surrendered. The Allies had poured into the city, securing and dispatching necrothralls so stick-thin and malnourished that they scarcely put up a fight. There were stories about the conditions found there, of citizens so starved that they were mistaken for necrothralls as they swarmed by the liberating soldiers begging for food. By all accounts, it was an exceptionally successful campaign, with few casualties for the Allied armies. The Liberation Front was ceaselessly praised for bringing the tyranny of the Undying to the end. But Helena felt sick reading of it, overcome by a sense of betrayal. How different it could have been if the international community had decided to even put a negligible amount of effort into caring sooner. If Hevgos and Novus had been less concerned over which of them would control Palladia afterwards, they'd all bided their time, waiting until the situation grew intolerable for them, and only striking after their victory was assured. And somehow, they were still heroic.
Yep.
So I'm gonna leave that there.
Yeah, a little used to on that one.
Okay.
Ugh.
yeah. It just
makes me so mad.
I have no words.
No.
The anger that it just, ugh, yeah.
And like, they put it so well.
Wonderful writing, and once again, just like wonderful allegory. It's just a direct, like it's direct.
Yeah, and like you don't really have to look that hard.
Those are the things that made me stop in my tracks to be like, I'm supposed to be reading fiction right now, you know?
Yeah, this was the part where like fantasy was getting too close to reality, and I was like, I'm not even touching. Like, I'm off work for this week. I'm not touching Instagram. I'm not looking at it. I don't want to be upset. I don't want to. But like, I was like, but now I have to think about it because it's here. Yeah. This is it. This is what I'm avoiding on Instagram right now.
Yeah.
And it sucks. And I'm not avoiding it because I need a mental health break. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. We all need it. Ugh.
But yeah, it was just so well done, and it hit so hard. And I think it hit harder this time too because
of where we're at.
Like the past 12 months since we read or did Manacled as an episode a year ago, almost exactly. It just made this hit harder.
So hard.
And Alchemized significantly better than Manacled, in my opinion, just because of those really core things like the theocracy and even like pulling out the motivations from like the Harry Potter portions of it and inserting her own around like the different kinds of magic and all the oppression. Like it added so much to this story, made it so much better.
I know. I think, and I mean, let's go back to, I don't know how we can come back from what I just said. I should have waited, but, sorry.
Awkward.
But like, let's talk about this romance side of things too, because
Dear God.
We're in spoilers. So like what happens in the first third of this book is that Cain Baron is terrible to Helena. He abuses her. He rapes her.
Yep.
And obviously later we find out that there was complexity to that. But the big thing for me when you're reading that for the first time is like, how do you come back from that and bring it into a like happy-go-lucky romance? And the answer is you don't. This isn't a romance. This is two people who have hurt each other and have been hurt and broken to pieces to a point where there is no coming back from that in a really real and raw way.
Yeah.
You carry that for the rest of your lives. And the resolution around that is that they get out. And that is the happy ending. They get out and they escape. And the conflict is finished, but there is no happy ending associated with this.
No, and like their story and their, because I also think this one did a really good job with like the after effects with like PTSD and all of that too. Like their story doesn't get to end when that war ends.
Right.
Their struggle doesn't get to end there either. Like they're constantly working at it. And I think that was really important to highlight. Like even like it has him being afraid of his daughter, like that he won't talk about what happened because he's positive one day he's going to say something that's finally going to be a straw that breaks the camel's back, and his daughter will never speak to him again.
Yeah.
Because he knows what he did was wrong. He's
Well,
aware.
Even Kane Farron having to come to terms with his daughter being a product
of that
sexual assault, but also having so much love for that person. Like, that is an insane thing to explore.
I really liked that in this one, because I don't think this happened in Manacled. I could be wrong. Someone can correct me in the comments. Please do. But there is the acknowledgement in this book that they were both raped.
Yes.
I don't think that was in Manacled.
I don't remember.
I remember we talked about it, and like I remember being upset reading comments of people being like, well, he raped her. And I was like, okay, well, you didn't finish the book then.
Yeah, literally.
Because he didn't have a choice.
Yeah.
It was do that or they were both going to die.
Yeah.
So I don't think that counts in the same way as that. Because like if someone's holding a gun to your head and being like, you need to do this act, is the person on the top really there willingly?
Well, and that's the,
is that not is rape?
That's the piece. We were talking a little bit about this earlier, so I think this is a good part to that conversation. But like, you being upset by that is you saying that if I were in that situation, I would have died. And the reality of the situation is you have no idea what you would have done.
No.
Maybe you would have. Maybe you would. But that isn't the thing that you get to be upset about, because this is a story that gets to be told.
Yeah, I one of the biggest things I see online for this one for criticism, and it's the same thing we saw from Manacled, was the rape being a problem.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, but I fucking wished I live in the world you do, where that's not a thing that happens every single day to like 2/3 of women.
Yeah. And you can be upset for them choosing to end up together. Sure.
Yeah.
You can get like all of those things, but like, once again, you don't get to be angry about how two broken people choose to move through a world that has been nothing but horrible for them.
Both of them.
How they choose to pick up those pieces and resolve that self, they get to do that together if they choose it.
Yeah, and by that point, they're both consenting adults.
Right?
With
like
as much mental faculty as the other. I'm not going to say it's all there because they're messed up, but they're both on the same level. They're both consenting. Like they're, and I think that part just really bugged me because I was like, that's a story that gets to be told. Like it's not like it's a, oh, she made up this scenario for this book and that never actually happened. That is reality.
the book owes you absolutely no empathy for how you would choose to go through that world in that situation. You owe that book empathy. That is what reading is for.
Yeah. Like
You owe
experience something different through a perspective that's not yours.
Yeah. Yeah. That book owes you nothing.
Yeah.
You owe it something, especially if you've never had that experience. That is where you have to put yourself into a world in which you didn't have a choice. You didn't have a say. And you chose something and you're going to regret it for the rest of your fucking life anyways.
Yeah.
No matter what Kane did in that scenario, he's regretting it.
Yeah.
At least he's alive to regret it.
Yeah. And she is too. And she gets to make a lot more choices after that.
Yeah.
And it's not like she was like, oh, I would have chosen to die instead of going, like, she was like, yeah, okay, you did what you had to do. And that is not okay, but it's what it is. And they have to make that choice to move forward or not together.
Are we on to controversy now? I feel like we're kind of on to controversy now, because now I have speaking points of controversy.
Yeah, let's go.
Just like kind of continuing this conversation, I commented on a TikTok where there was a guy who had a like really strong opinion of why, and this is kind of for both Alchemised but also Rose in Chains, Irresistible Urge to Fall in Love. Why are we romanticizing this idea that an oppressed person, a slave, a somebody who's imprisoned, is falling in love with their captor? And there's a lot of the point that was made was that, like, especially with people of color who are coming from this enslavement in like the romanticizing of that can be really dangerous, right?
Yes.
For a person of color to read and being like, you're falling in love with your captor, fucked up. Absolutely. I agree. And I can understand and empathize. And this person was actually, making the video in a general like curiosity, like why are people so enamored with it? And a lot of the comments were very much like, oh, it's like a kink where people like have that. And I just like, maybe for some people that's true. I'm not going to say that that's not an experience that people have. But, and I don't want to talk about the problem, like that being problematic or not, because I don't feel qualified to do that. But what I think is missing from that context is that these are not black and white stories of an oppressed person falling in love with their captor. And also, once again, why isn't that a story that can be told?
Yeah, I think that's always because
Stockholm Syndrome is like a very real thing, and it's a problematic thing. And I understand that this story takes a different like toll of how they like chose to kind of come together. But this like Alchemized, specifically Alchemized, they were both captors in a lot of ways, and the oppression was not like it's not a oppressor. It's an intersectionality conversation about how these people were both oppressors and oppressed in very different ways.
Yes, because again, no side in this was right. No one was really a good guy.
Helena spent almost 4 years, 2 or 3 years, like taking advantage of Cain Farron in a very big way while she was also being oppressed from her own institute and like battling feelings and conflict with them. Who got hurt in that situation? Farron.
Yeah.
And Helena.
And
like this is not a story about a slave falling in love with their captor. This is so much more complex and diverse because of these different experiences and like origins. And I think that's where like this controversy specifically is, and I think an issue with TikTok and just people speaking into the void and refusing to do their own work and refusing to do their own like reading and figuring out what it is, because it's so surface level when you put it like that.
Yeah, and like I wouldn't go into this story and not read it with a really big lens of I'm gonna sit with it and reflect on it and think about it while I read it. And that's another reason why it took me so long, because I would stop for like an hour and just like
ponder,
stew in my own mental juices of like, what would I do? Because like my takeaway from a lot of this too, of just like in a warfare sense, I'm willing to do an awful lot of terrible things. I would be Helena, who's like, I'll do that sketchy thing and I will damn my eternal soul and I will go to prison if it means this stops right now.
Yeah.
Like I'll commit your war crimes.
I would even say you would have like less like, I don't even know that you would be the person to like use Farron in the same way. I think you would have stopped that.
No, that wasn't
early, right?
That wasn't productive for anybody either. Let's be real.
Right.
Like there were, in my like the way I would handle those and this is what I thought about the whole way through. I was like, how would I handle this? Like what would I do?
But also you can't even, it's so hard because yes, you put yourself in that situation being like, I would have wanted me to be the person who did this, but I am also asking that like I am acknowledging that I'm a totally different person if I go through the same things as Helena, right? Like that's the piece of it, is like I try to almost say like, what character am I in this scenario?
Yeah.
Right? And I ponder on that. Like to your point, like we stopped all the time to think about it and to think about the impact that this book has on the world. And that's why like when we talked about the enjoyment and engagement piece of it, like engagement is it's not an enjoyment thing, it's the engagement of the fact that I'm going to be thinking about this book for the rest of my life. And when I read the news, I'm going to be thinking about it, and it's like, I don't know,
I think it is why when people are like, oh, this enemies to lovers romantasy is just so derivative of what this book and a lot of books are. Like people, especially right now, because books have taken off in such a amazing way in the past 5 years, of like, there is a story that needs to be told and a reality that needs to be acknowledged, and fantasy and books is a really good way of doing that, where you can kind of like step back and think, and I'm not just throwing news articles at you to be like, look at this thing that's happening. You can read it in this context and then think about it for a little while and then realize it's happening to your next door neighbor right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which I think is important.
Yeah.
Other things I saw, and yet again, copyright is not what anyone fucking thinks it is when they chatter about it into the vote. Not everyone. There are some competent people out there.
Yeah.
This isn't the average person's understanding of how copyright works is inaccurate.
Yeah.
One, this wouldn't have been published.
Mm-hmm.
Full stop. Like, they just wouldn't have published it if there was even a whisper of a chance that someone could sue them for copyright.
Yeah.
Also, for the record, fanfic authors, they don't own the characters that they're borrowing. They don't own, like, the world they're borrowing. But the stories they tell within them, they actually do. Like,
yes.
You couldn't take Manacled. I couldn't take Manacled and then have published it as my own work.
Yeah.
By changing it in the same way she did.
Yeah.
That's illegal. That is copyright infringement because it's not my idea. It's her idea. And it's very obviously her idea.
Right.
And I think that is something that really, really bothers me in the conversation around fanfic being adapted into books because, like, they're just taking the parts they own of the stories they told within fanfic and then working it into a new world that they build.
Yeah.
And then, like, what's wrong with that?
Yeah.
It's an original idea. Rose and Chains? Safe. Also, having read Alchemized, they're very different.
Yeah,
they're so different. I know we talked about it in that episode.
Was inspired because then this is like really Rose and Chains. The author of Rose and Chains was inspired. The fan fiction that it came from was inspired by Manacled in a way, and they give full credit to them in that fan fiction, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's still a new book.
It's very different. Yeah, it's not like the pieces they borrow are political prisoner.
It literally, that's it, right? Like, there's just like
which again,
political prisoner in a house, and
not
that
novel
still exists. But like, I could find you if I did some basic Googling. I could find you 500 other books easily that explore that same situation. Like, that idea is not copyright.
Yeah.
A character, a magic system, what is it, 51% that needs to be different for copyright to actually take place?
Yeah.
I also think getting mad at authors, and this is like kind of an interesting just circle back into that quote that I read about power and this misdirect and get mad at the people. Like, we are sitting here on TikTok getting mad at Senlinyu, a struggling writer who literally wrote 900,000 words on their notes app while they had a baby in their arms. A struggling writer who always wanted to write a book. You're getting mad at them for originating that from a world of an author that we all hate.
Yeah.
And, like, that is, once again, by our system designed. You're getting mad at the person, not the system. If you're mad about the system, get mad at the system. Get mad at the way that marketing is marketing this as a Harry Potter fanfic.
Yeah.
Get mad at it at Rose and Chains marketing. Get mad at the system. Don't get mad at the author. The author are the people that you are designed to be mad at. This is exactly what I've been trying. Like, that is what that quote says. And you still do it.
Yeah. And it's so hard to look and see people struggle when they're just a product of the system that's designed it that way so that you're going to get upset with them over it. And it's all a ploy too for marketing. Like, the more you talk about how it's just Harry Potter fan fiction reskinned, the more it shows up on social media, the more marketing you get, more free marketing they get. Like, it's just, you're feeding the machine.
Feeding the machine, and that is all by design. It's misdirection.
All publicity is good publicity.
Especially for J.K. Rowling. Like,
yeah.
Are you fucking kidding me? Nothing in her world right now is good publicity.
Yeah.
And it still makes her money. So.
And again.
Stop.
Just stop. And stop harassing people who still like Harry Potter fan fiction. One, she doesn't make any money off of it.
She hates it.
She hates it. She just loathes fan fiction because it takes money away from her.
Yeah.
Instead of watching the new Harry Potter TV show, go on AO3, look up some fun Harry Potter fan fiction.
Literally. I'm not going to be watching it.
I'm not going to be watching it. I'll be reading fan fiction about Harry Potter instead. Which I should. Another piece of controversy I saw, and there's an author I really like, who I still deeply respect. We just aren't on the same allotment of the political system, I think.
I mean, calling people out?
No.
Aw,
No, she's lovely. I really like her. She's just further down the line than I am.
Okay.
Respect that. Totally fine. But she did bring up a good point that I actually really want to talk about, and I would love for people in the comments to share their opinions on this, because maybe I'm wrong, but I've read in the past year a solid 500 Harry Potter fan fictions.
So many.
Most of those either, like, they're more than 30,000 words each, which is about 125 pages. Like, I've read significant long fan fiction across the breadth of the world of Harry Potter fan fiction. And she called out that, like, they're publishing these Hermione fan fictions, which they are. All three that we've mentioned today are Hermione fan fictions. But the most popular tags for fan fiction, especially for Harry Potter, are queer. You got Sirius and Remus, and you got Draco and Harry. And the question was, why? Why aren't we publishing those ones? And I think it's a two-pronged answer. I think one, as a society.
It's probably a million-pronged answer.
It's a million. There's two prongs I'm going to hit. And if you want to put more in the comments, please do, because I love talking about this, because I think it's so nuanced and cool.
Yeah.
But one, we just don't read that many queer books. Like, I think I probably have more than average as far as queer books go, and I still don't have that many. I've maybe got like 30 where I have queer relationships in some way, shape, or form in them. They just don't sell well. Like, the intersection of people willing to read books and willing to read queer books is not that big. And I think we need to make sure as a society that we work towards that being bigger. If we want those to be marketable.
Yeah.
It's huge. Like, oh my gosh, there's a whole section of, like, queer hockey romance up there.
Yeah.
Like, I love it.
Yeah.
But they're not the best performing hockey romances. Elle Kennedy, who's also up there, falls more into that line. The book she published that we read, The Charlie Method, I got so upset about because I wanted it to be gay.
Yeah, and it wasn't.
And it wasn't. And it was sad.
Polyamorous. It was polyamorous. There was representation, but it was not queer. Well, it was queer. It was queer, but it wasn't, like...
gay.
Yeah.
I want boys fucking, okay?
It wasn't...
Okay? The bottom line is what I wanted, and I didn't get it, and it was really sad because I was really banking on that because I really wanted it, but I understand she didn't do it, and it was probably because it wouldn't have sold as well.
Yeah.
The other piece with Drury, and I'm going to specifically bring in Drury for this one, is that the vast majority of Drury fanfics that I've read that are really, really good and perform really, really well take place while they're in school.
Yes.
And that is so much harder to take out of the Harry Potter universe and sell it. Like, this takes place outside of school. It's years later. Both of the other ones that got published this year are also outside of school. Like, I think that's a really important part of that discussion too, of they're just more difficult to adapt. Even
they're so challenging.
all the young
I think
dudes.
about, like, all the young dudes is a big one. I think about, like, Lolita, I think about My Dark Vanessa, which are both neither queer novels, but, like, when it comes to underage specifically, that is where it has to be a different book when you adapt it and publish it. So anyways, continue.
And I think
the young dudes,
all the young dudes is another really good example where, like, those characters don't represent who they were in the published books at all.
It's telling a different story,
but it's so ingrained into the Hogwarts and the Harry Potter parts of it that it would be, and I think this would be one of the easier ones of the queer fanfics to pull out and adapt out.
I agree.
But it's still going to be so much harder than Manacled.
Agreed.
It could just be so much more difficult. So I think that's another really big reason why those ones, and don't get me wrong, I would kill for the Drury ones to get adapted because that's an enemies to lovers that I actually think is, like, Draco and Hermione, we've talked about this in the past, is really fan made, and, like, that tension doesn't exist in the books.
It's very fan inserted.
Yeah. Whereas I think you could have an actually pretty good argument for Draco and Harry in the books to have a level of tension as, like, young teens pulling pigtails.
It almost makes it harder to separate from Harry Potter, right? Because, like, Draco and Hermione didn't exist as even really enemies. Like, they were enemies, don't get me wrong, but that relationship wasn't...
There wasn't tension.
There was no growth in that relationship. There was no resolve. It just, like, existed. Like, Hermione punched Draco once, and that's probably where a lot of it came from, where, like, they were like, let's grab onto that, especially because in book 4, 5, 6, and 7, Hermione and Draco barely talked.
Yeah.
So there was room to, like, develop that into a place, whereas Draco and Harry actually had in book 4, 5, 6, and 7, like,
so much relationship.
Harry developed empathy and developed understanding and started to understand what Draco's home life looked like and all of those things. Like, there was actually that being fledged out, and so there's, like, less room for it to actually develop into something else if you're going to do it that way.
Yeah, and it's not to say that there's not books that don't take place after Hogwarts with Draco and Harry. They're just not the most popular fan fictions in that space. They're good, don't get me wrong. Read a lot of those too. But these ones came with the backing of a giant fan base and the ease of removing from the world, whereas the dreary ones, the ones that have, I'm thinking of like Eviverate or something like that, really good. The poor author just DNF that whole situation because people online and whatever, J.K. Rowling's trash. But like that one is probably the most popular one. Takes place fully within Hogwarts.
Right.
It's twice the length of Manacled, and it would be so difficult to pull out.
Yeah. One thing that we can talk about just in terms of like the way that the system works and the popularization of queer work, period. The way that I really like to compare it is to women's sports, because women's sports have been in the conversation for the last 4 or 5 years, and they have also made insane progress in that department. But when it's probably 3 or 4 years ago, when the WNBA, I'm thinking Caitlin Clark, if you know who she is the best basketball player, college basketball player in the world, was the best college basketball player in the world. And she signed a contract with the WNBA for $75,000 a year. That was her rookie contract. And we are talking about a difference of millions, and like, rookie contracts in the NBA are
tens of millions,
in the million, like upper millions. Like, it's insane.
Yeah,
they make so much money. And so when she signed a contract for $75,000 a year, she was like aggressively taking one for the team, because that woman deserves millions of dollars because of how good she is. Now, the system works it's so nuanced. It's the amount of people who watched women's sports.
Yeah, how much money does women's sports have to pay them?
Yeah, it was the amount that like women's sports had to, be carried on the back of like the women's NHL. They needed to be literally funded by the NHL teams in order to survive. And it was the willingness of networks to air them because they knew they weren't going to make as much money in ads. Like, the system doesn't have the money to pay these people because the viewership was so bad. And so this is like a systemic problem, and it's the same with books. When you have an oppressed and like
underrepresented,
and half of these books are fucking banned right now in a lot of states and our province.
Yeah.
So, like, when an author is writing and trying to make a living doing something like this, it takes people and authors to go against the grain, understanding that their books are not going to be accepted into libraries right now. They're not going to be put into schools. They're not going to be able to have important conversations and push them out. Marketing deals are going to be more difficult when they do that.
TikTok's algorithm's about to change drastically, and that shit ain't getting promoted.
Yeah. My issue with these like TikToks where people are like coming and being like, why aren't these being adapted? Why aren't people buying this? Why aren't you writing this? Why don't I see more representation? Because everything is designed for that not to happen.
Yeah.
You are literally like, you have to go against the grain. And part of that starts with readers promoting and doing it and not asking, I'm sorry, I'm going to say it, you're asking a stupid question when you can literally just Google. You can search on TikTok, people actually having real conversations and talking about this rather than speaking into a video, into a void, just so that your video gets engagement. And I'm sorry, you cannot argue with me that the reason you are doing it on TikTok and posting it on TikTok to just say why rather than Googling it isn't for you to get engagement on your page. You can't argue with that with me.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong. We understand engagement. We're on a podcast right now.
Literally.
Like, we will ask questions to the world, but I won't ask questions of like, why is it this way? I'll be like, why is it this way for you?
Yeah.
Like, tell me about your story. I don't need you to explain what I can Google. I need you to explain what your perspective is because I don't understand it and I want to.
Right. And it just like, use your page, like find out the answer. Find out the answer for what you can. Do your due diligence. Educate yourself. And then put it out into the world, what you found, and ask people questions about their perspectives. I'm sure I've said many, many things on this podcast that other people are going to be like, hey, what the hell? Educate me. Help me with that. Because I am doing my best to do my due diligence in every way that I can. And if I've missed something in that, help me bring me into the conversation. Absolutely. I'm with you on that.
We're people. We're going to make mistakes. I'm going to remember things wrong. I'm going to have opinions based on information that's not true.
But don't ask a stupid question into the void so that you can get engagement on something that you can literally like do a basic Google search or educate yourself to an extent where then you get to turn it around and educate other people.
Yeah.
That's my 2 cents on it.
Basically, I'm tired of listening to people bitch on the internet about things that make sense.
Yeah.
That suck. Don't get me wrong. They fucking suck.
Yeah.
But I understand why they suck. I understand that some people don't have an entire queer section of their library. There's a bunch of them back here too with polyamorous
Some people don't get out of their comfort zone and read the same 10 books over and over again that have the same title and same enemies to lovers subplot and never get out of their comfort zone and then still find a way to complain on the internet about stupid stuff. I'm sorry. Calling you out.
Yeah, I give the podcast a lot of credit. We've got a lot of episodes coming out, and I've read a lot of stuff I normally just wouldn't pick up, and it's been great. I've had a fun time. Have I enjoyed all of it? No, I've DNF'd some of them, but like I have reasons, and we're gonna talk about them.
Yeah, it's just I don't know, just
It's not that
doing stuff that makes you uncomfortable, like literally makes you a better human. That's a concept that exists. I'm sorry, I'm being sassy.
Yeah, I think that
Say
was
it with your chest, Haley.
be all in. Oh god.
Sorry, that was an inside
That
joke.
was a big inside
But
joke. There's a few people that watch this that'll understand. Who live the same lives of us.
oh man.
But yeah, no, I think there are really valid criticisms. There's really valid questions to ask. I just think criticizing these authors who managed to go from fan fiction to published and being like, why them and not these other people isn't the question you should be asking in an accusatory way. It should be...
That is the rules of power.
Yeah, it should be why them and not also.
Yes.
Not why them, but not. You know?
Yes, exactly.
Like,
yeah.
this has a right to be published, and it should have been published, and I'm so fucking happy it was.
Yeah.
Do I really wish more other of the queer ones were published? Absolutely. But I understand why they're not, and I only read gay fanfic now. I don't even read Hermione fanfic. That is part of my protest against J.K. Rowling and society, is that queer representation is important, and I give those fanfics my time, so much of my time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's really important.
And that's a full episode on why books are political. Getting another TikTok controversy in there. Oh my god, that's my favorite one to come across when people like post videos about the argument that books aren't political.
Books change the world.
Literally, like, books aren't political. Yeah.
You're probably using a book or something that was in a book to justify shitty opinions.
It's just a wild statement.
Yeah, this is crazy.
Just remember, books aren't political after we've talked for an hour and 40 minutes.
About how political they are.
Do you have anything else to say about this?
Honestly, I could probably
7 hours.
I can go forever, and that's part of the problem. But if you want to talk to us about it in the comments, please do, because we like it. Well, Haley has to deal with most of the comments. I pop in every once in a while to roast someone. You're welcome.
Yeah. thank you so much for being here. Please let us know what you thought about this book in the comments. Be kind about it, but be like critical and have important conversations. Because, like, I don't know, that's I guess what we're trying to do here.
Yeah, we got a lot of episodes like that coming out after this one.
Yeah, can't wait.
There's gonna be a lot of conversations.
Okay, thank you so much for being here. Please remember to give us a like, a subscribe, a follow, and we will see you next time.
Bye.